Hi, everyone. Welcome to Consider the Lilies Podcast. I'm Megan Fevier.
And I'm Brooklyn Whitmer.
Tune in to the latest episode of the podcast.
Available on all streaming platforms.
Well, Maria, welcome to Consider the Lilies. We are so excited. Brooklyn and I are so excited to have you for our third season. We cannot believe that it's been 3 seasons already.
Wow, congratulations to you guys.
Thank you.
So we just want to introduce you to people that may be listening and people that are going to listen to this. You are a TV, film, and stage actress. You've lent your voice to so many different incredible projects throughout the years, from Disney's Camp Rock to so many different new projects coming out here on ABC. Such as Last Man Standing, and then on Apple TV Plus, The Morning Show. You've done The Big Bang Theory, and of course, Fuller House, which everybody has just loved. What an incredible project that was. And most recently, you were in Identity Crisis, which was just a great film. And we talked with Alexandra Boyan and Sherry Rigby about that project as well. And we are just so honored to have you on the podcast. So Brooklyn, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Yeah. So thank you so much, Maria, for being here. Our first question for you is, the podcast is called Consider the Lilies, mainly because we love how God looks at the whole picture of life. So where have you seen God consider the lilies and small things in your story lately?
Oh gosh, I think especially after the whole COVID pandemic, where we were all forced to change our lives and focus on the little things, and the mundane routine stuff. I've always kind of appreciated the small things, but I think I really put my arms around it and embraced it. Little things like, and I'm not the only one who got into like her skincare regimen, or, baking bread. I'm still baking bread. I'm still cooking. I have a friend who's an attorney, an amazing woman, just incredible. She's a special needs attorney for children with disabilities, and she has 3 children of her own. She's incredible. And she never cooked a day in her life because she was so busy, not because she was like, ooh, I hate, traditional female things or anything like that. She was just so busy. And so she had to like slow down, and she started cooking, and she's amazing now. So those little things like preparing a meal, making it look beautiful, making it look pleasing to the eye when you set the plate. I mean, just little things like that. I know I'm not the only one that, especially since COVID, really appreciate the little things that we take for granted every day in our lives. Gardening. Like I started gardening. I used to think gardening was this like big, difficult thing that you had to have a special talent or a green thumb for. But I just see the beauty of watching something grow and then eating it. I mean, it's just so simple, but it's so basic and so wonderful. So I really have enjoyed a lot of those little things that make life really what we can control and enjoy, because we can't control things. So yeah, I mean, I have a garden right now, ladies, and I'm enjoying it so much.
I love that. I think that's so sweet because, like you said, like it's those little things. Like you said, COVID, it slowed all of us down, and we had to really think about, okay, so what am I going to do now? Like I'm used to my career stuff. I'm used to doing all these things, being with people, and it was just, yeah, like you said, it was a time to really see the beauty of the small things, like you said, the cooking and the gardening and the beauty of nature. And so I'm just so glad that you brought that out, because I think that was also a very beautiful aspect of that time.
No,
it was really hard.
I also was, as a lot of people were, really like up and down during that whole lockdown thing. I don't know how strict it was in Indiana or in Nashville, but in LA it was very strict. I mean, we did Identity Crisis, the movie, with our masks on constantly. I couldn't see our director. She couldn't approach me. Sherry couldn't give me direction. I had to hear her through a monitor. but we did it, you do what you have to do. But like, it wasn't all like sunshine and I'm going to garden today and I'm going to do a whole like facial mask. It was like, there were days where I was like, I had all these plans, and then days where I was like, where am I? How can I get out of bed? Will I ever work on another project? What's the world going to be like? It's just like we all went through such a roller coaster ride during that time, so it wasn't all just enjoy the simple things and relax. No, it was very scary. And then there were days where, right, that you felt like that too, right, where you felt like, I'm going to paint the whole living room and redecorate. And there was a lot of home improvement stuff going on. And
yeah,
we
for
did some of
sure.
that.
Yeah, keep you busy.
yeah.
For sure.
And I think like there were definitely times too, and like there's still times where you're like, oh, like I can, I have all these great moments where I'm gonna do all these different things, but then it's like, oh, well, things get canceled, plans get changed, and you're like, oh my word, like where do I go from here? But you just have to take that next right step and do the next right thing.
Exactly.
And figure it out. But we kind of talked just a little bit in your intro about all the many projects you've been a part of and the incredible opportunities that you've had so far in your career. How has that challenged you personally, and how has it like strengthened you to, whether it's been a career strength or just a personal strength?
Well, this business is not for the weak. You have to be really strong, because it's like, it can be so up and down, and you have to love the art and the craft of acting or writing or performing in general, or whatever your talent is, because so many people want to do it and it's very competitive. But like you were saying, taking that first step and then the next step and focusing on what's in front of you. Like this morning, I did an episode of a character that I'm voicing on Dora the Explorer, the new show, which premieres April 12th on Paramount Plus. It's the new Dora for like preschool age and young age. And it's so beautiful and hopeful and loving and encouraging for young kids. And I love voicing the grandma, the abuela. I voice her abuela, who is just like Dora. She's an explorer, an explorer her whole life. She's very active. And so Dora takes after her grandma. You realize that she's an adventurer because of her grandma. And she's also a traditional grandma that she loves to cook. And the character sings. There's a lot of fantastic music in the show. I'm really enjoying being a part of something so beautiful and so innocent and just so lovely for young kids. The music is just really good. Like, I appreciate when something is for a young audience, that they don't wing it. Oh, it's just a kids show. It's never been my experience in most of my work that I've done for children's television. I've been very fortunate and blessed to have people that are not only talented but really committed to making it fantastic. Like Wizards, just great writing, and we had an amazing cast and producers that were very encouraging and reminded us, hey, this doesn't happen all the time. This is a terrific opportunity and a blessing that we have, that the show has taken off and so many people love it, and we have such a big fan base. Don't let this just, go by.
Yeah.
So your question was about the ups and downs and
how has it strengthened you, like personally and professionally?
Well, that's where you have to really like remember why you're doing it. Like, I love the art of acting, even just when I do my auditions here in the basement for our self-tapes. When it goes well, when we do a great take, it's just thrilling to hit the mark, to hit the right, sincere, authentic tone or a comedic moment. Like, that's just a fantastic feeling. And you have to have that joy, because you may or may not get the part. And often we don't. It's a very difficult life, and you don't even get told necessarily when you don't get the role. You just don't hear anything. Yeah. And you have to move on to your next audition. Sometimes you can get some feedback from your reps, but you have to love your art. I remember doing it for nothing, free theater or 99 seat theater where I met my husband doing a stage reading of a play, and it was just thrilling to be in the show. And I think that what sustains me and most artists is the love of the art form and the trust that what is meant for me will happen. And that's sometimes hard, but you got to mourn the loss and just trust that you're going to get the right one. Like I have another audition I'm doing today, and I did one last week, and I'm like, oh, I love that part. Oh God, I would love that part. That would be so much fun to do. But maybe this one's the one that's meant for me. So you have to like hold things loosely, but give everything your all. It's quite the dance. It's quite the dance. But then you look back and you're like, oh wow, I always feel like I want to do more, but I've actually done a lot, and I'm grateful for that. Like when I do Comic Cons and I get all these wonderful fans coming up to me, and they mention all these characters that I've done, that I've voiced, Paulina and Danny Phantom that they love, Hawk Girl on the Justice League, Sunset on the Proud Family. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I have done more than I even realized. I'm so grateful for it. Thank you, God, because so often as actors, we're like, and we have to move on to the next thing because projects start and finish, so you have to keep going.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I feel that because I'm an actress too. And yeah, like you said, you hold it loosely. It can be tough because, like you said, there's some roles that are like, oh wow, this would be like amazing to be a part of. But like you said, like you can't hold on too tightly, or you'll miss that opportunity that's really meant for you, just specifically for you. So
yeah. And isn't that one of the hardest things?
Yes, 100%. It can be for sure. So yeah, and you speak to that so well. But yeah, so our next question is, we noticed on your bio there's a verse, Romans 8:28, and I personally have a special connection to that verse. And I was wondering what inspired you to jump to the career of entertainment, and how do you use your platform to impact people in faith or with family?
I always just love to perform ever since I was little, like a lot of actors. The psychological reasons can be need for attention, need for affirmation, need for love, and that's just the human condition. But some of us want it more than others. And I remember the joy of making people laugh, and my sister and I imitating my mom and her best friend, our neighbor. I'd laugh like my mom, and my sister would laugh like our neighbor. My mother would laugh at how well we would imitate them, and just a joy that I just felt viscerally. And then in elementary school, I auditioned or I was chosen, because I didn't really audition in elementary school, and I really wanted to be chosen to be in the roles. And then middle school, I couldn't wait to take drama in 8th grade. And then high school, I got a bunch of leads, and I got most talented. And that gave me that, wow, that feedback of I've got something to give. And then I auditioned for the University of Miami Theater Scholarship, and I got it. And I had a great experience in college and performing at the Ring Theater. I worked professionally my senior year. Like one thing leads to another. And I was fortunate enough, and am fortunate enough, to be a working actor. And sometimes there are events in our lives that we can, nobody has had just being in this world, this human condition that we're in. There are all kinds of things that happen to us, or that we experience, or mistakes that we make. And I have seen in my own personal life that promise in scripture, and that's why it's in my bio, Romans 8:38, where I saw these things that caused me pain. I saw in my own life how I was able to utilize them, and how I believe that God worked them for good, which is an amazing, wonderful thing. And I know it's a lot of people love that verse. And I think when you really experience it, and you've heard, teachers and pastors clarify that it's not all things are good, but if we give them to God, he can work them for good. And I have experienced that. So that's why that verse is in my bio. And I love to encourage, especially young women. I love to do projects that give them hope, and it's just a wonderful gift. Like, I get to be an actress. I feel like that's a blessing in my life, because it is a profession that is really influential. I don't know that it should be, but it is. You know what I mean? I think doctors and there are people that have more important jobs. But the truth of this human condition that we're in, we really are affected by art and storytelling. And when it is captured on film and we can see ourselves and truths being performed and mirrored back to us, and pain that we can empathize with, and joy that we can hope for in someone else. I mean, it's just a very powerful medium. So I'm very grateful that I've had the chance to be in a lot of projects that have brought so much joy for so many people for so many years. Like, I get stopped all the time with the most wonderful compliments about playing a mother on Wizards of Waverly Place and Camp Rock, and people tell me the sweetest things, like, you were my mother figure growing up, and you raised me. I'm like, oh my gosh, wow, that's incredible. That's so sweet. So I feel that I've been very blessed and very fortunate to be part of so many projects that have made such a difference and have been so encouraging, and have made so many people laugh and enjoy their childhood. It's really terrific.
Absolutely. I know, Brooklyn, that is like one of the verses when we first met. She talked to me so much about that verse, and she can allude to it way more now about how much that verse has meant to her.
Oh yeah, Brooklyn?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like with Romans 8:28, that's how I felt called to do entertainment. So I really felt that call by the Lord to like pursue it. Cause I mean, I did singing all my life. And so it was cool because at 18, I went to this Christian conference and they allowed us to be in front of agents in Hollywood and in different aspects of the industry. And so through that, I did singing and tried my hand at acting and modeling. So yeah, it was just really cool to see that come to life, and it was a great challenge for me because I was so new to it, but I loved it so much. It gave me a chance to show my vulnerability, and I was scared of vulnerability. So I really need that for my own personal like life and my own personal walk with the Lord. So it was wonderful to be a part of that and see the fruit from just being a part of this industry. So yeah, it's taught me a lot.
I wish you the best.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Now, one thing that no, go ahead.
Share. Say it's tough, but you gotta go for it. If you love it, you gotta do it. You gotta try, even though it's not the easiest profession. You gotta try. Okay, you were gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say one thing. Brooklyn and I talk about all the time with either people that come on the podcast or just even if we're just in conversation with one another, is just good advice. It can be so hard to come by, especially now. But what is just one of the best pieces of advice that you've been given in your life, in your career? What is just one of the best pieces of advice that you have?
Well, in my career, advice, I remember, speaking of parts that are perfect for us, like years ago, there was an older actor that I worked with, and I had just moved to LA, and I had this audition, and I was like, this part was so perfect for me. She was so perfect for me. It was just such a perfect fit. And I don't know if there's ever going to be a part like that. And he said to me, Maria, there are going to be so many parts that are perfect for you. And I said, really? Oh, good. Because I didn't realize that. I thought, oh, I didn't get that one that was perfect, and I'll never have that opportunity again. It was so heartbreaking, but I was wrong. Yeah. So letting me know that there's going to be many parts that you'll feel are perfect for you, it was very encouraging to me. And I don't know that somebody told me in so many words, but I think but just life and learning and growing and seeking God. And I've learned that for me, the more that I trust him, that's just the best place I can be.
Yeah.
And realizing, that kind of love that's hard for us to wrap our heads around, that unconditional love for all of us, every single one of us, is like, wow, that's just incredible. And just allowing that in is really so important. Just allowing God to love us and learning and growing and walking and loving each other and encouraging each other. That's just the best thing and the best lesson.
Absolutely.
I love that. Yeah, 100%. I think it's like you said, like we always think, I know, like this has to be good for me, like this has to be the best thing for me. And when we allow ourselves to see that we don't know the bigger picture, like you said, like God knows it. So we just have to trust that he's going to lead the way, and he's going to show us exactly the place we need to be, the role we need to have that we thought was like not coming, but it is coming. And just hold on to that hope that there's something better. Just keep doing your thing, and just be kind, and like you said, love each other, and just show just the joy that the Lord gives you in your heart, and let that overflow in your life. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and being authentic too is very important, because we're all trying to find meaning and purpose and what real love is when we're all in this together. And there are times when we're frustrated, or when we don't know things, and I certainly don't pretend to know everything, and I'm seeking, and I'm called to love and trust, and even if things don't turn out, like I don't know that I'm going to get that part, or I just know that I don't know everything, put it that way. So it's about trusting and giving everything my all. And I have to say, I'm very grateful when I look back and I realize that there are so many blessings to look at, that have nothing to do with the next role.
Yeah.
And that's important to remember too.
For sure.
As much as we want the next role or the next project, there are more important things that we need to be grateful for. And I think that remembering that is very important.
Absolutely.
100%. Yeah.
Not that it's easy when you really want that part.
Yeah, I get that feeling. I really do.
But that's the most important thing, I think, for me personally, is to give everything my all. And sometimes, like what you were saying about, like, if I really like pour my heart into something and it doesn't work out, it's hard to go to the next one, because I get so like, sometimes I get really like, oh, how fun it would be to explore that character with that cast. But you have to, right, Brooklyn? You have to let that go and pour everything into the next one and put it out there on a platter, that vulnerability. And I've struggled with that in the past, where I've kind of been protecting myself a little bit, but you can't do that. It's like, to me, that's the hardest part. You can't do that, because you have to show everything you've got, your individuality, your special, unique you. And then they'll say, oh, I want her to be this part. So you don't have to do a character. You have to show who you are as that character. And they'll say, oh, I want her to play that character. So it's not so much what you put on, it's what you put out. And when something doesn't work out, and one can get like little self-protected and hold back, and you can't. That's the kiss of death, you have to say. And that's where trusting God, trusting your path, trusting that we don't know everything. We're not God. I don't know why things don't happen. I'm going to give everything my all, love the way I'm called to love, do the best I can do, be my authentic self, and then move on to the next, to the next part. I mean, that's the hardest part, I think, about being an actor for me, is remaining vulnerable, open, even after the, the ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs, being able to ride those ups and downs. And, you see how difficult it is. And when you see lives of incredibly talented people and how in their personal lives, they'll turn to alcohol or drugs, or it's a very difficult life. And being able to cope with those feelings is challenging, because we are artists and we're sensitive and we're vulnerable. And I understand why people want to feel something different and turn to a substance. Unfortunately, that just makes things worse. But you mean, there's so many incredibly talented people that have been, part of the golden age of Hollywood and after, and you read their biographies, and they've been through a lot. And so it's not an easy life. It's not an easy life. And some of our most brilliant performers have had really, really tough mental and emotional issues. So remaining mentally healthy in the ups and downs of this business is another challenge. And that's another thing I like that's happening now, is people are being really honest about their struggles, and, getting the therapy and the help that they need. It's becoming less and less like a big deal. It's more like, hey, I need to talk to somebody about this issue, or I need some counseling, or I need an accountability partner to help me here or there. I think it's really wonderful that things are becoming more open. The whole Me Too movement, people are being like, hey, that's not cool. And so I have a lot of hope for the industry, and things getting even better. Not to mention all the wonderful streaming services. And I mean, when I was growing up, we had 3 channels and that was it. So there are a lot more opportunities, a lot more shows. Mm-hmm. And that's exciting. I mean, there's so many shows out there. People ask me, are you watching this show or that show? I'm like, I haven't even heard of that yet. I'm still like 3 years behind on the hot shows to watch.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like I'm that way too. I'm like, oh my goodness, there's another show, and I'm like, I need to stay up to beat or whatever, but you can't do it all. But it's exciting to see, like you said, the streaming platforms and all the opportunities that are there. But thank you for sharing all of that with the vulnerability and being real about your journey. Because I think some people see the outside of the glamour and the beauty, and there's a lot of fun too in it. It's not like there isn't. But like you said, it's day to day can be hard sometimes. And so that's where you said we have to be strong and be like, okay, this is not meant for me. Just like allow yourself to like feel that, but then move on, and don't let it sit with you to where you hurt yourself in the process of doing the next thing and you're not present for the next thing. So yeah, right. So that really, I'm so glad you brought all of that up as an actor, because I think like we were talking about, it just is important for others to see. It's, the profession, there's so much into it. But it's a joy, though, to be a part of something really special, that we can create these moments and these stories and have these feelings and these characters and inspire others with incredible storytelling. So it takes a village. It takes everyone. So yeah, that's special. We have another question for you. So we know you were in the film Identity Crisis, as you mentioned earlier, with the Boylan sisters, and we just love them. They're so fun.
They're great.
What excited you most about being a part of this faith-based girl film with them, and how was that experience for you?
Oh my gosh, I loved it. I loved the script. I love that I got to play Angela Harris, Dr. Angela Harris, the faith-informed science teacher who is unapologetically a believer in creation and in that science explains the mystery of God. I thought it was a fun teen girl movie. I thought the way the editing was great, the music, the message was so important. It was all about loving yourself because you are accepted and loved, not because of any certain individual quality you may have. And it's because you are lovable, period. And that your identity is not something, I mean, it was heartbreaking to see her, the character of Madison in our movie Identity Crisis, how she was so miserable and torn and insecure, and it was heartbreaking. And I remember feeling some of that, sometimes a good amount of that growing up. And I think we all have those moments, regardless of what we look like or what others think of us. It's such an internal thing. And I think that message of showing Madison and how she tried to, do something outrageous, clone herself, and how it did not relieve her. It made things worse, and how she needed to just accept who she was and let herself be loved by her creator. The message was just really terrific. I'm proud to be part of Identity Crisis. I thought it was great. I loved our director, Sherry. I loved our writers, the Boylan sisters. It was a great experience completely. The only thing that was challenging was, like I said, it was during the COVID concerns. So we had to, have that mask on at all times, and then you could only take it off during the scene and we have to put it right back on. The director of photography had to change because I think he got exposed. So then there was some changes, and there was just, all those concerns going on, but the movie was made anyway, respecting all the things that we needed to do. And I'm very proud of the message. I think it was really beautiful. Did you guys enjoy it?
Yes, it was great.
I mean, I was really excited about how they talked about being fearfully and wonderfully made by the Lord. And I like that you talked about the identity thing. I just talked with somebody actually this weekend about identity and how much like we internalize so much, and just how we can actually hurt ourselves because we think less of ourselves sometimes. And it causes pain inside, but also the reaction from inside comes outside and it can hurt somebody else. And so, and so when we allow the Lord to just like heal us from the inside, and we can see that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, we are not another copy of somebody else. We are specifically made just uniquely by our creator Jesus and God. And so he gives us these gifts, and so we don't have to be thinking less than, because each one has a different gift, each person has a different story. We're all here to honor the Lord with our gifts, and we don't have to think less than, because it's not it kind of becomes about self then, you know what I mean? In ourselves we're like, oh, like we just kind of, and then it makes us like self, like I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough for this. It's like it's not about that. It's about knowing I am fearfully and wonderfully made, because I know who made me, and that's the Lord. Really special.
Yeah, and with the internet and social media and all the messages that young people get, I've seen how challenging that is. I mean, even for adults to remember that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Each of us, every single person is special and unique and valuable. Every single one of us. And the temptation to compare, it's just terrible. And so I think the challenge is greater than ever. I mean, when I was growing up, we didn't have the constant in your face social media stories and photos, and I think the more that we are content and grateful for all the good things that we have and who we are, I think the more we can be happier for others and be encouraged rather than discouraged. But that I think there's going to be a sequel to Identity Crisis. Did Alexandra say anything?
But
well, if there is a sequel, of course I'd love to be part of it, and I think it'll be even better than the first, which was very terrific.
Yeah. Well, we have loved chatting with you, Maria, and thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today and just share what's on your heart. It's been such a joy.
Thank you so much, ladies. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.